Hello everybody and welcome to Tea Wipe, the show where we clean up spilt tea and figure out if it was really worth being spilt in the first place. I'm your host Boblex and today we will be talking about the copycat of the beauty community, Huda Beauty. But before we do that, I'd like to shout out Van Puffin for creating one of the logos for this show. I think she did a great job with it, and we will have more assets being made for this show as I continue to develop it, so you can look out for that. Anyways, let's just get right into it. So Huda Beauty has built up quite a reputation for being a copycat, only based on 2 events in the last 2 years. Yes, out of the dozens of makeup collections that has been released from Huda over these past years, 2 is enough to call her a definitive copycat within this community, and to get people in quite an uproar. This is actually quite a pressing topic, believe it or not. It's one of the biggest things being talked about in the tea community right now. Surprisingly, because once you see what I have to show you, you might find it just as ridiculous as I do. So the first thing she's being accused of copying is this claw machine promo that was done for Jeffree Star's palette last year. They are quite similar, but only because of the claw machine. Everything else has a completely different vibe and feel, and to me it proves that you can make 2 very separate feeling promo images from the same general concept. Is it possible that she was inspired by Jeffree Star's promo last year in order to make this one? Yes, but is this a straight copy? Not really. And is Jeffree Star really entitled to be considered the grandfather of sorts for using this prop within the makeup community? It's not like the concept of swinging from something in order to promo your product is a revolutionary concept. I would argue that Jeffree Star took very similar inspiration from Miley Cyrus as Huda did from Jeffree Star. So did Jeffree Star copy Miley Cyrus by making this jawbreaker image? No. And neither did Huda from Jeffree Star, especially when you consider this is only one image of many from her entire collection that she just revealed. And when you look at the other images in relation to it, it looks even more unique from Jeffree's original image. Because as you can see at the bottom, it shows the makeup, then it shows the case for it, and then it shows her interacting in some playful papercraft box that matches each of the colors, one being a house, the other one being a television set, and the third one obviously being the claw machine. So if you take these images as an entire package and then compare it to Jeffree Star's Jawbreaker promo, it doesn't look the same at all besides that one object. If we're gonna use that logic when comparing any makeup product to each other, we could be like, oh, this person used a paintbrush in their promo art, and that person used a paintbrush in their promo art, so that person must be copying that person. Cancelled, you know? It's just ridiculous. But unfortunately, Huda isn't just being criticized for that one image, but the entire palette, as people are claiming it's a copy of another palette made by Colourpop. And I've gotta say, I mean, besides just some of the names and the general concept of the collection, the makeup itself actually looks very different. Here's Huda's, and here's theirs. Yes, there's some similar colors as there is in, all palettes. There's only a certain amount of colors that exist. But besides the names, the products themselves are not very similar from one another. If you took someone's Huda pastel palette and swapped the labels with the Colourpop pastel palette, that person would notice the difference. The product is far from a carbon copy of one another. They are very clearly different products. As for the names being the same, yes, it is kind of weird, but couldn't we also accuse Colourpop of stealing from Huda, considering how close the reveals were from each other? As many people saw in the Shane Dawson documentary, it does take like half a year plus to come out with these products. So if any copying happened, it would have happened back then. And who's to say that Huda didn't come up with the idea first and Colourpop got the insider info and stole from them? Knowing that Huda had another scandal prior in regards to copying another makeup company, they could have strategically planned their release and promo campaign around this in order to time it correctly to create this drama. I mean, it's not so far-fetched of an idea when you consider that right as people started commenting on Huda copying again, Colourpop decided to swoop in and promote their palette even more by making this sly tweet mentioning that their palette is less expensive than Huda's, which could have also been another strategy within this supposed plan I'm bringing up. Remember, this is all hypothetical. I'm not making any definitive statements, I'm just bringing up things to think about, you know? But for this theory to work, I will of course have to fill you in on this other Huda copying scandal that happened back in 2018. So back then, Huda made this promotional material for a vintage bakery themed collection. Now, the people who she was accused of copying from is a makeup company called Beauty Bakery, where their entire thematic, no matter what the collection they are releasing, is bakery themed. It's in the name of the company. So when Huda dared to make a bakery themed collection, obviously people said she was copying them. But here's the thing about that. If you look at Beauty Bakery's bakery themed promotional images compared to Huda's is very more themed within like vintage 1950s type imagery, to where Beauty Bakery is just simply images of cooking and baking. So the two thematics are kind of different from one another, besides the core concept being baking, which is a pretty core concept to both of these themes. But what I would say to that is that connecting baking and makeup is not a super far-fetched or unique idea. You bake in foundation or concealer or what have you. Sorry, I'm a straight white male, I don't wear makeup. But it's called baking it into your skin. That's a term. So for promotional material, connecting baking to makeup makes a lot of sense. It's a concept anyone could come up with, and the fact that multiple people did doesn't mean that they're copying off one another at all. Just because this one makeup company bases their entire theming around bakery, is bakery-themed promotional material completely banned from use from any other makeup company now? And this is not even mentioning the video that Huda released where she explains her creative process in creating the bakery set. I mean, if she did copy off Beauty Bakery just straight up, she did a pretty bad job of it because she ended up repeating the creative process instead of just, skipping it by copying somebody else.
We thought it'd be really fun to kind of come up with a concept of like modern day baker. So, like back in the 50s, back in the 60s, women were always like kind of like, they were baking, they were cute. There was this pinup era, so girls were kind of flirty. They were like, and we just thought that was like so much fun to play on. So we created this beautiful mood board, and as you can see, like it's kind of like it starts from different places. It shows the woman baking in the baking aisle, then she like brings everything home, she's playing with everything, she's cooking, she's on her phone, she's chatting. Lucille Ball was actually a huge inspiration for us.
I know it seems like I'm making a lot of excuses for Huda here, but considering it's only happened twice in the last 2 years, and the amount of makeup that is made by these companies within that time, it does seem more like coincidence than a repeated pattern of behavior, especially when you keep in the context that bakery and beauty isn't a huge leap in logic when it comes to pairing two concepts together, and that the claw is used by Huda in a very different way compared to Jeffree Star. This culture that's starting to develop of shaming beauty people for having similar ideas with their products, I think is very unhealthy and stifles creativity in a lot of ways. Some of the best products in history have come out of inspirations of other things, and so many different ideas have been done within media as a whole, it's impossible to not have some sort of overlap. Sometimes it's more overlap than others, but just because there's a little bit more overlap doesn't mean that it's copying. Most people see the Jeffree Star and Huda images together and it looks like this to them. For me, when I see it, it looks like this. Both use the same main thing, but everything surrounding it is completely different. But that's just my opinion. I could be completely wrong, and the beauty community has some sort of secret blacklist of ideas that go up there once somebody uses them within the makeup community. Have a creative new idea involving a claw with your makeup promotion? No, that's on the list. That's already Jeffree Star's. You can't do that. Try something else. Tamper with your creative vision because we don't like it when you do something similar to somebody else. Unfortunately, that's the reality of the tea community as of now. Either way, that's about it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you do, be sure to slap a like on it and subscribe with notifications on, because more tea wiping is coming in the future. Although I don't just upload that, I also talk about some more manly dramas. If you're interested in that, you also have some incentive to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter to keep up to date with all the latest tea, among other things. And thank you so much to my channel members for supporting the channel, especially Josh Pescator, who has donated $30 a month. He has a pretty cool news channel if you'd like to check that out as well. Either way, with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in another video.